Good morning, everyone. My name is Marisel Hernandez, and I'm the chairman of the Chicago Board of Elections. We are here because today marks the official citywide and countywide start of early voting ahead of this historic March 15th presidential primary election. We are also here to remind voters, both young and old, that early voting now provides voters with the ability to register and vote if they haven't done so yet. Every one of our 51 early voting sites in the city of Chicago, as well as every one of the 44 early voting sites in suburban Cook County, will provide voter registration services. If you're already registered, you're all set. But if you need to register for the first time, update your registration address, or file a name change, you will be able to do so during early voting and even on election day. However, there are two key items to remember if you're registering to vote or updating your registration. First, you need to be ready to vote at the same time you register. Secondly, those who are registering for the first time or filing a name or address change must present two forms of identification, at least one of which shows your current home address. This can include a driver's license or your state ID, a passport, a utility or phone bill, a bank statement, a debit card, an insurance card, a school or work ID, a lease or deed to the property where you live, or any governmental mail, including a school report card. A complete list of early voting sites and hours and forms of identification is available at our website, chicagoelections.com, and click Register to Vote or Early Voting. Also, I want to remind everyone, young and old, that this is the first presidential primary election in which 17-year-olds who will turn 18 by the November 8th election can now register and vote in the March 15th primary, even if they're still 17 at the time of the primary. So if you have a child, niece, nephew, grandchild, student, or neighbor who is 17 years old now, please let them know and take them with you to any early voting site during early voting or on election day to their home precinct polling place so that they may register and vote. These many positive changes are the result of the work of the Chicago Election Board, the Cook County Clerk's Office, and our many partners in community and civic groups throughout the Chicagoland area. Together, we identified important changes like online registration and election day registration and expanded early voting. We took these messages to our lawmakers, and now these ideas are part of our election code. Please feel free to visit our websites, chicagoelections.com if you live in the city of Chicago, or cookcountyclerk.com if you live in suburban Cook County, to review and print your sample ballots before you come to early voting. We encourage you to vote the entire ballot. To make the voting process easier, every voter has the right to bring a sample ballot with them to early voting or the polling place on election day. Now, beyond the presidential contest, there are many important contests for U.S. Senator, Congress, State Senate and State Representative, the Water Reclamation District, Cook County State's Attorney, Cook County Circuit Court Clerk, and various appellate circuit and sub-circuit judges. Now, with all of that said, I would like to point out that this is our 11th year and our third presidential election cycle with early voting. So between our two agencies, we have many years of data on how and when people use early voting in both high turnout and low turnout elections, including the fact that the number of early voters always peaks in the final days of early voting and as we get much closer to Election Day. We know that early voting is a wonderful option, so that voters who are ready to cast their ballots can do so ahead of Election Day and not worry about the weather or possible scheduling conflicts on March 15th. The use of early voting also reduces traffic in our polling places on Election Day, so we encourage all of our voters to come and vote early at any one of our early voting sites. Despite the great benefit of early voting, we're hopeful that the lawmakers may reconsider visiting one of the recent changes which stretched the start of early voting back to 40 days before Election Day, which was February 4th. With the inevitable candidate objections that occur, we need to make sure that we are providing voters with a complete final ballot, whether they're voting by mail or using early voting. Especially this year, with the presidential candidates filing in January in Illinois and objections that were being resolved on February 1st, the idea of starting early voting on February 4th proved unworkable in all of the larger jurisdictions. Additionally, since February 1st, we have seen several presidential candidates drop out of the race. This means that if voters had voted on February 4th, there would be a strong chance that someone could have voted for a candidate who dropped out. So even though 40 days of early voting might be wonderful for late September and October ahead of the November general election, perhaps we should look at moving back to the traditional 15 days of early voting for primary and municipal elections. And now I would like to introduce Noah Praetz from the Cook County office. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Marisel and Bruce, for having us. My name is Noah Praetz. I'm the Director of Elections for suburban Cook County. I spoke with Clerk Orr this morning, and he is quite under the weather. He does send his regards and regrets. Looking at a room full of cameras, his regrets are real, I'm sure. He also sends his best wishes for the opening days of early voting 2016. You know, in the early part of the last decade, David, along with our contemporaries and colleagues at the Chicago Board of Elections and elsewhere, pushed hard for early voting. It was passed in 2005 and began in 2006. So now we're 10 years into early voting in Illinois. During the primary of 2008, over 50,000 voters voted early in both the city and in the suburban Cook County, and over 200,000 in each jurisdiction during the general election. Now, I don't know that we get there this year, but if we do, if the voters are so inclined, we're ready. Early voting has proven to be a huge success. In hectic times, the advantages of this option for voters is very, very popular. I want to point out a couple new things about this year. There are some extended hours during the second week of early voting. Check both of our websites, cookcountyclerk.com and chicagoelections.com, to find those specific sites. Additionally, there are some sites that offer last chance options on the Sunday and Monday just prior to the elections. Again, please check our websites for those sites. But I would caution you not to wait for Sunday and Monday. If you're going to early vote, vote early. Another change this year, photo IDs are no longer required for early voting. Now our judges will continue to do a rigorous signature analysis on both of those. While they're not required, IDs might be helpful. Clerk Orr likes to say that not all names are spelled O-R-R. We'd like to remind our voters that when they come in, they may bring materials with them into the voting booth, and they can ask for help. At all sites, there'll be Republican and Democratic judges to help. Also, as Marisel pointed out, if you're 17 but will be 18 by the general election, you can come out and register and vote now. Voter registration opportunities are available at every early voting site from now through Election Day and on Election Day itself. You'll need to bring 2 forms of identification, one showing your current address. We have 44 sites in suburban Cook County. There are 50 in the city of Chicago. You can vote at any one of them. If you're a city resident, though, you must vote at one of the city's sites. If you're a suburban resident, you must vote at one of the suburban Cook County sites. You know, in a time where bloody conflict is used to resolve a great many disputes, it's great to be here celebrating the start of early voting in Illinois and the United States, where our disputes are settled at the ballot box. So please come out and vote, and we look forward to a great early voting period and Election Day in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot.